It's a long video, guys.
Was literally fired from CNN a couple of years prior for saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free at the end of his speech at the UN. Okay? This man is a scholar. This man is a historian. He delivered a speech in front of the entirety of the United Nations, and CNN fired him. Why did they fire him?
Well, I'm assuming that you don't believe Israel has the right to exist.
I don't believe Israel has a right to exist as an apartheid state. No, I don't. I don't believe that an apartheid state can continue.
From the river to the sea essentially means the state of Israel is going bye-bye.
The reason why I brought up the historic reference,
I mean, depending on how, like, selective you want to be with your terminology, from the river to the sea could also literally just mean, like, in the state of Israel, Palestinians will... Wait, is it from the river to the sea Palestine or Palestinians? From the river to the sea saying, because I thought it was Palestinians, but people in chat have given me the... have said, like, no, it means either. It can be either. Yeah, man, this is the fucking ambiguity of slogans, right? Again, I maintain my position that I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the phrase, but in context, a lot of people do use it in a way that's anti-Semitic, and that's one of the reasons why I think the slogan is not worth the trouble. From the window to the wall.
Point is because in its charter in 1960, I think it's like in 1965, the PFLP that first implemented this slogan literally said they wanted the Zionist entity to be dismantled so that there is a democratic secular state for all Jews living in Israel and all Palestinian Muslim Christians alike. Hold on.
Who said that?
Yeah. Oh, he's gone. He's back.
TeddyFresh.com, guys. Black Friday sales going on right
Sorry,
now.
I had to get my food.
I saw some people getting really upset over him saying that, as though content creators don't constantly do shit like that. Like, oh, hey, you're here, you're mad, here's some merch. You can think it's tasteless or whatever, but like people do that all the time. I've done that. Hasan has done versions of that. Like everyone's done that. I don't think that is something to get mad at with Ethan.
Like, do you think that
what are you eating?
What? I just got chicken. My dad just made me chicken. Listen.
Your dad made you chicken?
Yeah. Listen. This is important.
Okay.
So a lot of Israelis, like you also personally mentioned, right, believe that a secular singular state would mean genocide. But you also have been reasonable and have come to terms with the Israeli fears being overrepresented in this conversation.
Okay.
And this is the exact same conversation being played out once again. When I talk about emancipatory movements, I feature the actual people that are being wronged in this process and not the considerations of those who are defending, maybe not directly oppressing those people who are asking for a just cause that are morally on the right side, but those who are defending those who are wronging them. I don't care about the considerations of people who defend Israel in that situation.
The Palestinians are the ones being wronged, which I agree with.
Yeah.
Then they can't be. Then they can use that phrase with. They can use phrases with impunity about Israel.
I mean, if they said, kill all the Jews, then no, of course not.
Whoa.
That's not a phrase that they can use with impunity.
What if they said Israel shouldn't exist?
Israel shouldn't exist?
Israel shouldn't exist.
It depends. Whoa. It depends contextually. It's entirely about entirely about whether or not it is contextually appropriate. It's like the fucking OK sign. Nazis use it.
Did I just hit a button? Oh, the number pad is how I map my. Okay, I just want to listen to the thing, man. Let me be free, like Palestinians or something.
You know what I mean? But contextually speaking, if you hit the fucking OK sign, that doesn't mean you're a Nazi. If someone is talking about Israel cannot exist within the framework that it currently exists, then
How
yes,
many
that is a
people are
totally appropriate
talking
thing to
about it
say.
like that though? Like I know you are, and in like your political circles and stuff, people do talk about that. But when someone out, just in the world says Israel shouldn't exist, I don't think, you know, I wouldn't assume their intentions are always pure. That
Yeah,
they're
precisely why I said context is appropriate. Context is
right, but in most
context
contexts,
is
I guess I'm
important.
saying,
No, I don't think in most context. I don't agree with that. It's like saying America
if,
doesn't.
if you say
America shouldn't exist in the way that it does. Is like when I say it, it's different. I'm an American citizen. When you and I
doesn't
can
have
say
any
it
weight
easily.
though, doesn't have
What?
any weight. There's no terrorist group trying to fucking kill Americans.
What? Yes, there. Wait, I thought I don't get it. I thought Hamas was crossing the fucking southern border to come.
Okay, there are a lot of people who legitimately would go for and want the eradication of Israel, but this isn't really a matter of whether or not there are people who want Israel eradicated, because I promise you there are hundreds of millions of people who genuinely wish that, like, America could be eradicated. There are plenty of people who really don't like this country. So I like, the real question is, to what extent could that meaningfully be done? And like, I know that Israel isn't quite as safe as, say, I don't know, America is, because it's America. Like, we're America, right? But at the same time, like, I really don't like the idea that the reason why from the river to the sea Palestine shall be free is a bad saying is because people actually want to do that to Israel. Like, what we should be talking about is that a realistic thing that could happen? And the answer is Israel is a highly advanced military nuclear state backed by the United States of America. Yeah. And by the way, okay, let's imagine a situation, by the way, where there was a little bit more, like, tooth to that. What if there was a slogan, and there probably is a slogan that says this, okay, because my brain is at half capacity right now. But what if it was like near the fall of the Soviet Union, and there were a bunch of like ethnically marginalized groups across the Soviet Union that were chanting stuff like, the Soviet Union will collapse, like blah blah, right? And the thing is, like, not only do they really want that, but also that is a realistic possibility. That is a thing that could actually happen. So does that mean that it would then be bad for them to say that because there might be people who want the Soviet Union to collapse in, like, I don't know, a Nazi context or whatever? I don't know if that necessarily tracks. I don't know if that follows,
Come and destroy America.
Right.
Like,
Well,
I know
it
you're
hasn't
not saying
happened
that,
yet.
but
I know it is crazy that people are saying that. I agree. It's absolutely fucking nuts that they
Yeah.
think that. But
So, do you
anyway, that's
understand where I'm coming from?
I'm just telling you the Jewish perspective. That's why people don't.
No.
When they hear
First
from
of
the
all,
river
no, you're
to
not
the
telling me the
sea,
Jewish perspective. You're telling me.
I
you're
am.
telling-
I am.
No,
I am.
Ethan, you can't say it's just the Jewish perspective when.
I'm telling you because Jews, I know they're talking about Israel, but when Jews around the world hear someone say Israel shouldn't exist from the river to the sea, which is how it's interpreted, they see that, again, I keep bringing this up, they see it as a genocide.
Okay.
And so they
can I ask you a question?
I'm just telling you that's what it is.
The perspective of, like, like I said, it's not every single Jew or like the Jewish perspective. Jews are not a monolith. I think that it's ridiculous to make this assertion when, like, again, Jews, anti-Zionist Jews, are at the forefront of criticizing Israel and have been using this term in perpetuity, and therefore comparing them to capos is like.
The whole issue is had this well poisoned by alt-righters using Israel as a dog whistle for Jewish people. Well, first of all, alt-righters are not the only ones who use Israel as a dog whistle for Jewish people. The problem is also that, like, some of the most aggressive and loud Zionists are either Nazis or, like, sorry, I shouldn't say they're Nazis. They're Nazi adjacent or are at the very least, like, okay with Nazis, right? Like, the entire fucking Republican Party is packed full of Hitler particles, and they clearly don't give a shit. Like, to them, the Zionism, like, there's a million objectives that the Zionism achieves, and none of them have anything to do with the well-being of Jewish people. It's so the well is getting poisoned all about the place. I guess I wish. I don't want to, like, imply that I know everything that's going on here, because I'm sort of diving in and dipping my toe into a bit of context. But I guess I wonder, like, what proportion of time and energy and effort is being spent on the infinitely greater harm that is being done from the right side of the equation with concern to this specific issue, you know? Because I gotta say, it like with regards to like, oh, from the river to the sea can be really damaging because it could imply this. Like, all right, are you aware of the fact that Holocaust revisionism is weirdly common from like the Netanyahu's cabinet and some hardcore Zionists? It's like, man, I don't know. Like, where's the threat coming from?
I think very inappropriate.
Dude, no. My point in comparing them is to say you can find support on any movement by anybody. You know, it's
No,
just
but that's not. But that's not a
it's not
broadly.
persuasive
But that's
to
not like
say,
a.
hey, it
But
doesn't.
that's not a tiny, minuscule percentage of the Jewish population. That's a very important percentage of Jewish scholars. It's a very important percentage of Israeli scholars. It's an important percentage of Jewish people in
You're
general.
saying that you know that there's a large portion of Jewish people around the world that say from the river to the sea.
Not a large portion of Jewish people around the world, but I don't
So how many
concern
are we
myself.
talking?
I don't concern
100?
myself with what Jewish people think about a particular slogan when I'm talking about a particular slogan that is supposed to be, when I'm giving you the historical context of where the slogan comes from, not necessarily like how Jewish people perceive it, especially when Jewish people on either side of
This is a rough fucking conversation, man. I have to say, I don't know how this conversation could be had in a consistently productive way. Like, especially considering Ethan and Hasan have a rapport, you know? There are a lot of people who have tried to reach out to me who have wanted to have, like, a Zionist debate from a good faith perspective. And the God's honest truth is that I don't want to, because I genuinely feel like there are good Jewish people who are coming from this almost entirely from a place of trauma. Like, Jewish people are legitimately maligned and subject to a lot of oppression. And I have it's like it reminds me of a kind of debate that I also very wisely tried to not have when I was a smaller channel, and it was like debate about sexual violence and misandry from the perspective of rape survivors, because like obviously the perspective of people who have been subjected to sexual assault is valuable because it happens, blah, blah, like a lot of that shit. But at the same time, in terms of the actual mechanics of the conversation, I'm not fucking doing that. Like, Jesus Christ. And it's not even like a truth thing. It's not like I'm afraid of their truth or like they have a different truth. It's just purely the like the social weight of that conversation is almost unmanageable. You know? So I don't know. It's rough.
this equation are a tiny sliver of the conversation. Anti-Zionist Jews do not make up the broader movement, just like Zionist Jews do not make up the broader movement of defending Israel. It's literally we're living on a planet where
invoking that some Jews, there's Jewish people that agree with you is I'm just saying I don't think it's a good argument. That's all.
No, I'm simply the reason why I mentioned that is
Sure, you
because
can find
if you
Palestinian-
consider
you
it to
can-
be
I'm sure you can find
an
Arab and Palestinians
eradication
that are like in favor of the occupation too.
No, the reason why I brought that, Ethan, and the reason why I think it's a disingenuous framing to compare it to the Confederate flag or to say that Jewish people agreed with like Hitler or whatever, is because you know a lot of these Jews who are anti-Zionist. You probably respect a lot of these Jews who are anti-Zionist. Do you think that they would actually fucking defend a phrase that unironically is pushing for their ethnic cleansing? Do you think that that is the case? I ask you in all
talking
sincerity.
about a real measurable group of people. You're just using Jewish people as a token.
That's not true.
And who are these people?
That's-
You're talking about 100, 200? I mean, what are we talking about
I'm talking
here?
about the tens of thousands of Jews that have been demonstrating on the streets since.
And you've asked them, and you've
This is why I don't ever like debating the lived experience thing. The honest truth is that if you care about truth, like the concept of truth, what Jews think about this is actually largely irrelevant with regards to like the ethics of the phrase or the sentiment or the movement itself. It's just like a detail point to be filed in the optics folder on like where we're at in terms of actualizing these changes. Obviously in real life, like what people care about matters, but in the pure fucking big brain logic space that, you know, I float in day to day, like, you know, suspended in a vat, it's not actually relevant. And I don't care either. It's like one of those, you know, like, well, what do Black Americans think about this? I don't fucking care. What is good for Black Americans or white Americans or Native or whoever else, and what they think or want, these are very, very tangential concepts. The average person, no matter their race, rarely has like super ultra well thought out positions on you know, like it's I wish it was that easy. I do. I wish you could just defer to a group, you know, and be like, ah, well, they think this. The closest you can really get to is people with a specific academic background on an issue, like, you know, what do you think about mathematics? Well, here's a mathematician. That makes sense, but certainly not by ethnicity. It's important to remember this is over 2 hours into a convo where Hasan has been debate-burning Ethan, not engaged with anything Ethan said. I would like to think, and, you know, you can judge me for to whatever extent you want. I think that generally I'm pretty fucking good faith with Ethan Klein. I like Ethan. I think he's a cool dude. I'm just here to see the convo. You know, I'll do my best.
You've asked them how they feel about From the River to the Sea. You've polled them on that.
There are literally written there's so much written
no, I get you with Aldo. I mean,
articles on this exact same thing, this sloganeering and what it actually means. Yes. They're the ones who are screaming it. They are the ones who are screaming it. Yes.
Really? Show me all the Jews screaming From the River to the Sea. I'd like to see a fucking video
People
of that.
have said I'm Jewish.
Even one would actually be quite surprising. Find me one video of a Jewish person screaming From the River to the Sea.
Okay.
Go ahead. I mean, I can definitely find you a group of Palestinians or Arabs that are like, no, we should definitely occupy Gaza. And we think that Israel's totally right.
But what difference does that make?
Because I can use them as a token too. It doesn't mean that what
Wait,
they're...
what? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even, what you just said doesn't even make sense.
Why?
Right here.
Find me a video of a, you know what I mean? Let's see. I want to see all these.
Here, this is from Jewish Voice for Peace Action. Here, I'll send this to you as well. The full phrase is From the River to the Sea, Palestine will be free. If you believe that freedom for Palestinians means eradicating Jews, it says more about you than...
Let me see it before you... Let me see what
this is. Do you think these guys are capos?
It's really... Okay.
Do you think these guys are capos? They're criticizing Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
So let's see.
Stop trying to...
This group, Jewish Voices for Peace Action. What do you know about this group?
What do you mean? What do I know about this group? This is one of the forefront. This is one of the leading advocacy movements of anti-Zionist Jews in this country. Alongside Jewish Voice for Peace, you also have Jews for Economic and Racial.
Jewish Voice for Peace, for the most part, does an okay job, don't they? Wait, to be fair, Jewish Voices for Peace has posted some stuff. What have they posted? Most of the stuff that I've seen on with regards to this conflict specifically has seemed pretty on point, but I don't. I haven't like looked into them extensively. Blood libel comics and praising some terrorists? What? Jewish Voice for Peace blood libel comics? That's IDF soldiers drink blood in quote blood libel post by anti-Zionist NGO. The picture entitled Independence Day depicts celebration of Israel's Independence Day by Israeli soldiers who raise their blood-filled glasses and toast. Maybe it's like ironic. Yeah, I don't really know. Because on one hand, to be fair, there are so many anti-Semitic stereotypes that you can accidentally lean into them pretty easily just by pure chance, you know? Like, lots of people get called rats, but obviously there is, like, an anti-Semitic history specifically to calling Jews rats. And at the same time, if Jewish Voice for Peace actually is staffed and run by Jewish people, like, is it like Boondock shit? Like, oh man, that's racist. And it's like, oh no, it's actually like pointed satire being committed. Like maybe Jewish Voice for Peace is saying, look, the behavior of Zionists is so bad that they're actually imitating the worst stereotypes and tropes associated with it. Like, I don't really know on its own. It is pretty sussy though. I guess it's like delicate ground to walk. But then again, as we all know, the edgiest comedians are in fact left-leaning Jews. So maybe they're going for it. I don't really know.
Racial freedom.
But don't you see how fucked up it is to be like, this group of people say it's not offensive, therefore the rest of you shouldn't care about it?
No, you asked. You said, show me a Jew. And I didn't just...
No, show me a Jew screaming From the River to the Sea. You show me a tweet. I mean, on Twitter, people brigade any fucking thing. Like, this has 36,000 likes.
This is
80%.
these guys are at
If I look at
the
other
forefront.
tweets-
These guys are at the
Hold on.
forefront of
Of
anti-Zionist.
course there's groups.
Anti-Zionist
Of
protest.
course. Of course there's groups, dude.
Ethan, you asked me
There
and
are other-
I gave
there
you
are
an
other
answer, and now
Do
you
you
don't
think
like the
this is
answer,
a
and now
very
you're
The
saying
majority
this,
of people retweeting that are Jewish.
that doesn't change anything. You asked
Why
me to.
doesn't it change
You
anything,
asked me.
dude?
You asked me for a particular. You asked me to literally. First of all, there's Jews in my
I said,
chat
show
right
me a
now.
video. I said, show me a video, not
There
a
are
tweet.
Jews in my chat right now that say it all the time. Not that you care, because like clearly, when I show you not just a single Jew, like you asked, but
Why do you
literally
need to rely on that argument?
Literally an entire
why-
movement.
I don't
You still-
understand why you rely on that argument. It's silly.
You asked me. The reason
No,
why I'm
you-
mentioning
you
is
brought
because
it up.
do you think
You
these are
said-
bad people? Do you
No,
think
no,
these
no.
are?
You brought it up. You
Do you
said
think these are
there's tons of
anti-Semitic?
Jews.
Do you
It's just going to keep bouncing back and forth like this forever. Yeah, and I'm going to listen to it. What are you doing? Arresting me?
think
Say
that these
this.
are anti-Semitic Jews? Like the people that are
You
protesting.
said there's tons of Jews that are saying this.
Yes, of course.
Show
Yes,
me one
anti-
video of a Jewish person saying it. You sent me a tweet.
Here to protest.
Here, right? This is where you do it.
You said you could find me a video.
I'm gonna literally call up Noah Colwyn to have him say it.
I don't care what one person says about it. I'm talking, you know what I mean?
Here. Well, but you said show me a Jew. I'm showing you.
A video of a Jew screaming from the river to the sea.
Okay, I'm gonna call up Noah right now.
I don't want to talk to Noah. I don't give a fuck about who that is. I don't know anything about him.
What do you mean? I'm gonna call him so he can fucking.
Don't you think Hasan is not reading the room? Ethan's in an emotionally vulnerable state. I understand that, and I do think that Hasan has a responsibility to be thoughtful of stuff like that, but at the same time, we're dealing with basically like the highest imaginable stakes in terms of this genocide. So I can understand. I guess I can understand, you know, sort of being a little bit bullheaded in questioning the issue.
Scream it. He can scream it at you.
Okay,
No,
so
not the
you
Orthodox
know one
one.
guy who will scream it. Therefore, dude, this argument you're making is fucking is ridiculous.
What do you mean the argument
Because
is ridiculous?
That's like saying if I can find a Palestinian to say the occupation is justified, then saying the occupation is justified isn't anti-Palestinian.
No, because the morality behind what he's saying is incorrect. The morality behind what from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is correct. That's the major difference.
That's not how the Jews see it. They see it as.
But now we're having having two separate conversations. We're having
No,
two
we're
separate
not.
conversations. If
Dude,
you and I are
I'm
both
just
in agreement
telling
with
you-
Palestinian emancipation, which you say you are, and I believe you, then why would, like, if you believe in Palestinian emancipation and you don't believe in a permanent occupation over Gaza, who gives a fuck if you can find a Palestinian that says, no, eviscerating Gaza is correct? Like, the conversation is not on the boundaries of, like, Jewish people versus
don't see it
Palestinians.
as
The
a morally
conversation is on
just statement.
Zionism versus anti-Zionism.
The Jewish people do not interpret that as a morally just statement. I mean, obviously, that is completely subjective.
Well, the reason why I mentioned that you're wrong in this, I'm sure there are a lot of Jewish people that don't interpret it as morally just. They think that it means like
Therefore,
ethnic cleansing.
you don't
but
care
what
about
you're
anyone
supposed to
else?
do in that situation is not to immediately go, all right, well, Jewish people don't think this is appropriate, so
I'm gonna
so
go
it's
find
not
black
allowed.
people. I'm gonna go find a group of black people say the Confederate flag isn't racist. I'm gonna go find.
Ethan, please
you
stop.
know,
No,
a
don't
bunch-
do that. Don't do that.
You're
Don't do-
I understand that he's in an emotionally compromised state here, but the arguments here from Ethan are pretty bad. I mean, I'm sure you all understand why.
No,
that.
you're being ridiculous. This
No,
point is
Ethan,
fucking
you're making a
absurd, bro.
conflation that
However
makes you look
many Jews you could
horrible.
put in a
Why don't
room
you
to
see
agree with
this?
you means fucking nothing.
Ethan,
I'm
you're making a
telling you, I
conflation that
know.
literally makes you look so bad. Please stop doing that. Please.
Doing what? Doing what?
Stop bringing up slogans of an oppressive party in comparison to slogans that come from the oppressed side. It is a false conflation.
All
a
I'm
false
telling you
conflation.
is why people find it offensive. You don't want to hear it, and that's fine. or you disagree. I'm telling you why people find
You're-
it offensive.
the-
They see it as a call for the destruction of Israel. That's how they view it.
I
And
hope you
again,
can understand what I'm trying to say, because like
Israelis is basically they see things through the lens of everybody wants to kill us.
do you think
And so
a black
therefore-
white supremacist that defends the Confederacy is akin to a Jewish person that is defending Palestinian emancipation
My point
and
is that
saying
you
this
can
slogan?
you can find anybody to agree with any
I know,
fucking
but-
point. That the existence of somebody agreeing with a point is not proof of any fucking thing. And
There
the
are-
suggestion that it
There
is
are a
stupid.
ton of white people who think Black Lives Matter means fuck all whites and only Black Lives Matter. That doesn't change the reality behind the slogan, and that doesn't change the morality behind the activism. And the same goes for Palestinian emancipation.
Hasan is correct here. I do think that in the spirit of sort of covering your bases, you could also make the point that as with all slogans, there's always going to be a degree of semantic ambiguity with regards to whether or not from the river to the sea means Palestinian emancipation or the genocide of Jewish people, and that maybe it's not a great slogan for that reason. But at the same time, you also have to point out that in this environment, like in the context of what is currently going on, everything in the fucking universe is being called a genocide of Jewish people if it opposes Zionist aims. Like, we're operating in a media environment where where like you're anti-Semitic for outright calling for a ceasefire, and when like civilians are being indiscriminately bombed. So right now, like, we're not living in the best time period when it comes to institutionally backed good faith analyses of whether or not any given slogan is racist or anti-Semitic or whatever, you know? It's pretty bad for that. Hasan derangement syndrome? Wait, me? Who? I please, I've been on vacation up until like 5 minutes ago. I'm dipping my feet back in. Hello, Keffels. Hello, Keffels Raid. Welcome, Wigglers. I think they mean chat. Okay, I'm just dipping my feet back in. You know, just had a wonderful vacation. Really feels like people saying Black Lives Matter means white people's lives don't. Yeah, I've never known a person to say Black Lives Matter and mean harm to white people. I have known, like, there are groups who will say from the river to the sea and they mean an anti-Semitic way, but I don't think that's enough. Like, I don't think it's that simple. Like, that in and of itself is not enough to, like, condemn the entire... All I'm going to say is that if you're forced to give up a slogan every time people start using it poorly, like, what slogans work then? Because that certainly that like leaves out all pro-Israeli slogans, you know? I like, that's everything, right?
Just because people who are in defense of Israel, okay, people who are defending Israel and its continuation of an apartheid regime because the opposite makes them feel like it's going to be genocidal, doesn't change the reality of the slogan behind it and doesn't change the morality behind the actions. I am in support of Palestinians. I'm in support of all people living freely. I'm in support of
I am
permanent
too.
security.
Stop putting
Hasan
these
really
fucking
said all
words in my
lives
mouth
matter.
like I don't. The way you set that up is fucked up, and that's why people get so angry.
No, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you're putting words in your mouth.
I'm explaining to you why people find it offensive. That's it. I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm telling you how people interpret that, and like when people double down on it and they use it, and people, it's offensive to the vast majority of Jews. I'm telling you. Despite how many you know that you could fit into a room that agree with you,
This is going to literally, like, I'm telling you, I don't know why you won't listen to me. I'm trying to, as your friend, I'm seriously
as your friend
urging you to reconsider your position, because if you are,
I'm literally just explaining why people find it offensive. What is my position exactly? That is a problem. What's my position? That's
your position comes along with the false conflation that this slogan is harmful to Jewish people. A slogan that is a slogan that is otherwise not harmful to Jewish people can be used in an anti-Semitic fashion. A slogan that is
people believe it is harmful to them.
But that doesn't change the reality of the slogan or the fact that there are plenty of Jewish people who are in support of Palestinian emancipation who use it. It's a slogan at the end of the day for a morally righteous cause. Just because just
But
because
there's also fucking
those
terrorists that want to kill a bunch of Jews also amongst that cause, despite it not being a lot. That's how fucking Jewish people and Israelis interpret it. I'm just telling you, dude.
Okay,
Whether you
Ethan.
agree or not, I'm just explaining it.
Ethan, I know you're just explaining it, except the okay.
You're not gonna convince Jewish people that
It doesn't matter. I don't care about
It's not
convincing Jewish
offensive.
people. But first of all, I care about convincing whoever will actually listen and try to understand from a charitable perspective what I'm trying to say. But ultimately, yes, I am not going to move on this position because people are uncomfortable by this slogan, considering what the slogan actually is. There's no reason to concede. There are certain things that I find
that's not
completely
true.
unacceptable.
There are reasons. I mean,
you
like you
wrote-
said,
if you wrote From the
Hamas
River to the
uses
Sea,
it, terrorist groups use it, and so like there are reasons. Whether you agree with them or not is a you're justified
Hamas
to
says
disagree.
free Palestine as well. Does that mean free Palestine means eradication of Jews? It's in their charter too.
No, it doesn't mean that.
Okay.
Okay, what's the difference then?
I mean,
Okay.
obviously the context matters,
Took a
right?
second.
Some people mean
A
it that
little
way.
worried
That's
some
what
there.
I
people don't.
said. That's what I said from the start.
Right, but well, so free Palestine in it doesn't suggest the destruction of Israel, which is how again people interpret.
This is. I think this is almost entirely semantics, because yeah, free Palestine and from the river to the sea mean almost exactly the same thing. Like if you actually think about what's meant and implied by those statements, they essentially mean the same thing. Now, you can say they have different, like, associations, and I think I would agree with that, but if you were just looking at, like, the raw textual meaning of the statement, yeah. I mean, a lot of it really does come down to semantics. I fucking hate semantics, man. I feel like the discussion about this saying is getting ridiculous, like this is such a waste of time for them. Yeah, but you know what? That's politics, right? I mean, really, it is. That's politics. Yeah, quick steal get. Like that's a lot of what we do here. Yeah, I'm anti-semantic. Thank you.
No, that's not true. Plenty of
Free
Jews plenty of Zionist Jews that I've seen think free Palestine means the destruction of Jews.
Okay.
Not just
Well,
Israel, the entirety of the international Jewish population.
I don't think that because from the river to the sea in the saying itself is people interpret it as the annihilation of Israel. That's how people see it.
Okay, when you want to understand what Black Lives Matter means, do you go to white people to ask them, or do you go to black people and ask them what it means? Who do you listen to?
Hey, what?
When you want to understand the purpose behind a slogan, do you go and ask what white people think about Black Lives Matter, or do you ask black people what they mean when they say Black Lives Matter?
I also really, I don't like the framing, of course, because like we know plenty of black like turncoats or whatever who would be like, oh, Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter means the eradication of all white Americans. Like, thank you for my check. You know, like whatever. So yeah, but I mean, at the same time, yeah. I've talked about, okay, guys, remember how in the past I've talked about how a lot of Western leftists have trouble dealing with contemporary anti-Semitism because if you look at oppression only through a lens of class, Jews in the West are actually doing quite well. The problem is that like when it comes to like anti-Semitism, not only are the tropes different and the way the tropes are applied different, but at the same time, the way anti-Semitism takes shape, it's easier to code, and a lot of it also kind of comes from marginalized people. Like fucking Hamas is marginalized for sure, even if they're not good. And at the same time, so are a lot of like militant anti-Semitic Middle Eastern Islamic groups, right? Even if they are technically like, you know, the oppressed, that doesn't mean their anti-Semitism is powerless. It's clearly not.
I would
When you want to understand
Just
the
tell
meaning
me your
behind the
point. Just
slogan
tell me your
Black Lives
point.
Matter, do you
Yeah.
ask white people what they think it means, or do you ask black people what they think it means?
I guess I would probably just ask anyone involved in that movement. I don't know.
Okay, that's great. Are there black people in the Black Lives Matter movement that like legitimately hate white people and like maybe want to even kill them?
It sounds like me.
I'm sure
That's
there
me.
are.
This is
There's
my
one.
point.
You can find one of everything. Okay, like I'm sure.
This is
Does
what
that
you're doing essentially with your
Does
there's
that-
Jew-
does that
using
change-
Jews as tokens.
does that change? No, listen to my words. Does that change the broader movement and the morality behind Black Lives Matter, or does that change what people mean when they say Black Lives Matter?
Black Lives Matter doesn't. Again, it's what's in the phrase, dude. Saying or the thing is like saying Black Lives Matter doesn't insinuate that other lives don't matter. It's in the fucking phrase, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, from the river to the sea.
From
From the river to the
it's
sea,
in the
Palestine
phrase.
will be free also doesn't feature from the river to the sea, we
All right,
should
you know
destroy
what?
Israel and kill all the Jews. You're the
Flipped.
one who's saying that that is the secondary implication behind it.
I'm just telling you how people see it, bro.
I know,
You
but if you
disagree.
were to tell me this is how white people feel about Black Lives Matter, I would say I don't care how white people feel in this regard because
Yeah, but
my business
Black
is not
Lives
about
Matter-
explaining what this.
There's
my,
no
what I'm-
inherent, bro. There's nothing in Black Lives Matter that's saying that white lives don't matter in the fucking
There's nothing
slogan.
in from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free that implies Jewish people must be eradicated or Israel must be destroyed
No.
and Jewish people in it must
People-
be killed.
A lot of people disagree because you're talking
God
about
damn
from
it.
the river to the
Yes,
sea.
a lot of people
is
who are not
mainland Israel.
Palestinian and a lot of
All right,
people who are
whatever,
not
bro.
anti-Zionist disagree. Anti-Zionists, on the other hand, don't agree, and they are the ones who are using the slogan. So why would I'm asking you, if I'm not going to ask a white person who is against Black Lives Matter, why would what they feel about this slogan? Why would I go to in the broadest
Well, I already
majority
explained it to
Zionists,
you.
both Jewish and Christian? Why would I ask them what they think about a Zionist, anti-Zionist slogan?
I already explained it, but you don't want to hear me.
What? No, I'm asking you. Like,
It's
why
not in
this
the
circumstance,
fucking
why would you do
slogan
that?
itself says people interpret it as destruction of Israel. I know it doesn't say let's destroy Israel,
But it's not-
But that's from the river to the sea is mainland Israel.
Okay, Ethan.
That's it, man. That's how
Ethan,
people see it.
No,
I'm not-
you can't simply say that's how people see it and
It
stop
is,
it
though.
there. But it doesn't matter how Zionists see it. What matters is how anti-Zionists speak it. Anti-Zionists of all backgrounds, just like Zionists of all backgrounds, will sometimes cynically and other times because they're misguided.
Good argument from Ethan here. So the most charitable way that you could frame Ethan's argument, like the way that I think he wants his argument to be phrased, would be to essentially it would be to look at what he's saying and to go like, okay, so it doesn't, like, we're dealing with semantics here, but if people feel threatened by a statement, like, that is meaningful in and of itself. It like in itself, without any like historical qualifiers needed, any other bullshit, that is meaningful in and of itself, you know? Which is true, obviously. I don't know.
Think that this spells the genocide of Jews. It does not.
Can you do you care that your chat is calling me racist? Do you make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat.
moderate that
I
at
have
all?
not looked at my chat at all, but you
I
have
just
to understand.
opened it, but don't you have moderators? Do you care at all about what your audience says about
there's
me?
32,000 people in here right now. The reason why people are saying that is because of the conflations that you made, Ethan. That's why, like, I can't stop people from viewing you a certain way.
don't
if
read
you're gonna
chat.
make these
Classic
comparisons that they've
mistake.
heard from actually racist people. You literally implied that Jewish Voice for Peace would be akin to a capo in this
Oh,
circumstance.
you are fucking so bad faith for saying that, and fuck you for even putting that out in the world. That was
You are
not
the
my
one who
point.
made this comparison.
My point was that you can find anybody to defend any fucking thing. That was my point.
You also made a comparison that this slogan is akin to the swastika changed over the course of its trajectory as a symbol for Nazi Germany. And then also on top of that, stated that the Confederate flag means something different to the Southern folk that want to promote heritage, not hate. Those people, when they say that, are cynically saying heritage, not hate. It doesn't mean slavery to me. Those people are in the wrong. These people that are saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, are not in the wrong. They're in the right. That's the major difference. They are morally righteous, and their slogan in and of itself is on the exact opposite side of what the Confederacy implies. That's why a better comparison would still be to make a comparison to Black Lives Matter in the way that some white people foresee or perceive Black Lives Matter. And if I'm not going to listen to what white people who are against Black Lives Matter have to say about the slogan itself, then why would I listen to people who are defending Israel on what this slogan means? Because the broader majority,
the issue here ultimately, and this is going to sound pretty like slanted, and I guess it is, but I do believe it, is that like Ethan is not coming at this from a logical perspective. He feels personally hurt by what he perceives as Hasan enabling a lot of harassment and hate from his community, and as a consequence of that, he's framing this in a way that makes it very difficult for him to engage with the points being made. You know, like, I'm not trying to talk down to him or anything when I say that. I sincerely think that's the main issue at hand here. Yeah, he hasn't made a prescriptive statement yet. He's basically just been saying over and over and over again, like, you know, I feel this way because other groups feel this way. And that's obviously not a good argument. Apparently Hasan's mods are pretty nasty. A lot of Hasan's mods are gigantic pieces of shit. So I'm definitely not arguing against that point. I don't think he said he feels that way, only others do. Yeah, but then, like, semantically, obviously, by him going to bat for that perspective, it'll come across as... It's such a... Man, I hate... Okay, can we sort of part the veil a bit once more? This is one of the reasons why I don't have, like, a group of orbiters or, like, friendly people on stream or whatever. I fucking hate having disagreements with people that I like. On stream. I can do it in real life just fine. In real life, I love arguing with people. Anybody who knows me personally can attest to this. But when it's on stream and there's all the pressure and weight of having an audience behind you or whatever, like everything that could otherwise become a good, positive, productive conversation gets poisoned by the nature of, like, direct engagement from streaming. Like, instantly it gets made so much worse. And it, like, destroys meaning, and it destroys charitability, and there's chat. Yeah, but orbiters are healthy for the movement. People who get along with you are healthy for the movement, fine. Orbiters are fine, whatever, great, good. That doesn't mean that you have to, like, have highly emotional arguments on stream. That's not a necessary part of the equation if you don't want it to be. You can leave that part on the fucking cutting room floor, and it'll be fine.
Modest majority of people who consider this to be an anti-Semitic slogan are, in my opinion, deploying it cynically. Not you. Not
by
you.
the way, I'm not even defending I'm not even, like, I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child, cold, arrogant, as fuck.
I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised when your Discord is literally full of fucking...
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do if you're making that argument. You know that, right? Like, at a certain point, you're an adult, and the words that you're saying are going to be perceived by people in a certain way. I can't constantly tell my community to shut the fuck up, like, which I have, and I think they should. But at the end of the day, it's because I know you personally, and I think your heart is in the right place. But they don't know, so it's hard. It's hard for people to view what you're saying beyond your words. I'm just telling you the perspective.
You disagree. That's it. I mean, what the fuck do you want from me?
Okay, but do you get where I'm coming from? Like, that's why I'm trying to
understand your analysis, dude.
Okay,
I understand your analysis.
I don't want my community to hurt your feelings. I don't want your feelings to be hurt either.
They're not hurting my feelings. They're monsters. They're, like, psychotic.
I think you're a good
not
person.
All of them, but there are a lot of them, and you don't seem to care about moderating it at all. That's
not true.
Whereas when you're on my show, we really do care about what people say about you on Discord, in chat, and we moderate it to keep like a good environment, but you don't seem to fucking care about
There's
it.
no way I can
Do you
shut
not
off
have
my chat.
moderators?
I mean, I can put it in emote mode, but that's it.
Do you not
Just
have
like you shut off your
moderators?
chat. Just like
You not-
you shut off your chat when these sorts of conversations happen in an effort to stop bad faith pieces of shit, we can put it in emote mode, which is what I'm doing now. But ultimately, you have to realize, like, when there's 33,000 people, and it's not even YouTube, it's literally fucking Twitch, so that it's even.
I do agree with essentially every criticism Ethan could make about Hasan and his community moderation. Hasan's community, well, I like, it's a huge community, so it's not like Hasan is responsible for everything that gets said or done in it or whatever, but like, holy shit, there are some bad tendencies in that community.
Faster, it's almost impossible to moderate because people are going to perceive what you're saying in a certain way. This is not like, there's only so much moderation I can do if you make that comparison.
Do you have moderators in your chat? I don't understand. I didn't make any fucking comparison, dude. I'm literally just explaining how people feel about it. That's all I'm fucking doing, man. And you continue to put words in my mouth, making it seem like I'm comparing them to fucking Jewish Nazis and shit.
Hold on.
It's so fucked up. It's not fair. And when you say that shit, then people in your chat are obviously going to co-sign it. And they're going to fucking, you know, think that, as I quoted, a Zionist fucking freak pig. I mean, you know. I don't know. For the record,
Ethan not know?
I understand the analysis, right? That it's not anti-Israel or anti-Semitic. I understand. And I agree with his analysis, actually. I do. I'm explaining why Jewish people around the world find it offensive. And I can tell you guys, most Jews do find it offensive because the way they interpret it, which is the destruction of Israel. That's how they interpret it, whether it's meant that way or not. And I think that it's worth, you know, acknowledging that that's how people feel about it. You know, keep using it by all means.
Sorry, I was gone.
I'm talking to the audience.
Can you hear me?
Okay. I'm telling the
barreling
audience
back
because
in.
I don't think I can.
You know why? But
I'm just explaining to the audience that I'm simply explaining why people interpret it to be anti-Semitic or anti-Israel because of the insinuation that it is from the river to sea. They interpret it as it being a call for the destruction of Israel. You can use that phrase, and I agree with your analysis, Hasan, that you know what I mean, that people can use that phrase. It's okay. You know what I mean?
Ethan raises a valid point here as a matter of how relevant the optics are toward moving into skeptical. Yeah, well, I mean, I think it does matter because, like, there is going to be a lot of rising anti-Semitic hatred. Like, dude, there are so many accounts right now that are getting a bunch of clout being pro-Palestinian when they're just Nazis. The Palestinian girl, Jackson Hinkle, is literally, like, the most engaged with Twitter account right now. Purely because he's grifting off the pro-Palestinian shit. Like, that's real. The problem is that the people who are worsening this the most, the people who are like making this as bad as it's possible for it to get, you know, it's not like actual lefties earnestly and sincerely using terms like from the river to the sea. It's, you know, Zionists who constantly promote like far right shit as long as it's immediate. Like, they're literally like, Netanyahu's a fucking Holocaust revisionist, dude. Like, the well began by being so poisoned, you know? It's as poisoned as it can be. There's not even, the well isn't even poisoned. It's just a well of poison. There's not like, it's not even spiked well water anymore.
I mean, I'm just explaining the perspective. If you care to you know, respond to it or not,
no, I get the perspective.
If you want to keep using the phrase, that's fine. You know what I mean? I'm just explaining that I don't like that people act like it's so fucking shocking that, you know, when Jewish people see that and interpret it one way. It's not fair to make them seem like crazy Zionist
fucks if you see
for interpreting it that way.
If you see my explanation of this, and if you hear Palestinians explain this term and this slogan and what it means to them and the history of the slogan, right? And
we should call Netanyahu a Holocaust denier, not revisionist. Yeah, I guess like semantically, revisionist is more accurate. I would agree that he's attempting to do essentially the same thing that Holocaust deniers do, which is that he is attempting to reframe the narrative in a way that advances hatred against a marginalized group. Like, I don't know.
And instead of going, oh wow, I didn't think about that. Actually, maybe I'm in the wrong here. I would rather listen to those who are anti-Zionist Palestinians and also American Jews and Western Jews who are anti-Zionist alike. If they all are in, if they all have this kind of perspective overall, then if you are also on the side of the emancipation of Palestinians, don't you think that the better thing to do here would be to educate people to ensure that there's not any further like misunderstandings on the front? Because that's the reason why I make this statement. That's the reason why I try to educate people when there's a sea of counterfactuals and counter narratives that simply claim unconditionally that this is like anti-Semitic. Anti-Semitic people can use this. I do agree.
I disagree that it's unconditionally anti-Semitic. But do you understand why some people might find that like a scary phrase to hear around the world?
I
around
do.
the world.
But
Okay,
people
good.
also,
That's
but people
all you
also
had to
think.
say.
I know, but
You
people also think free
acknowledge-
Palestine is
hold
a
on.
scary phrase.
Bro, okay, so you acknowledge that Jews around the world, you can understand why they would see that and can think of it as a scary phrase to them. That would make them uncomfortable.
Yes, just like
That's it.
Black Lives Matter can be an uncomfortable phrase for people, but it doesn't change my mentality around the phrase.
No,
And if someone
because
asks me,
okay, whatever, bro. I don't know
what do you
to
mean
tell you.
whatever? That's not whatever. That's very
Well,
important.
we're just talking in circles. We've already talked about this shit.
I know, but it's important because I don't want you to think that, like, I don't want you to think that I'm like cynically or in a weird way, just like being
don't
like,
think
no,
so.
anti-Semitism is
Listen.
like totally fine
No,
actually
I
with
don't
this
think
one
so,
phrase.
But what you won't make any fucking concessions, and it's crazy. Like I make so many fucking concessions to you.
I just don't know what concession he's looking to. If the concession that he wants from Hasan is some Jewish people feel threatened by it, Hasan's already acknowledged that. And his counter was, they may feel threatened by it, but we shouldn't be concerned with the feeling. We should be concerned with the actual material harm done, which is a fine rebuttal, I think. But but Ethan hasn't really engaged with that, I don't think.
All the time from my heart, and I listen and I fucking try to move towards your side every time we talk, and I do. But when I fucking try to explain to you, and you even sit here and you understand that, so why Jewish people around the world might find that phrase scary to them, you won't fucking even admit. Well, now you did that I asked you, but you think it's fucking silly. You don't want to hear anything I have to say, and you don't want to concede a single fucking point.
I think that,
And it's not that fun to talk to you about it when it's like that.
okay, I think the reason why it comes across as one-sided, even though it's not one-sided either, is because we're broadly in agreement. But I agree. But the potential fears that this might invoke in people who are otherwise misguided and propagandized against this phrase by those who have a cynical reason to tie this to Judaism in general is the reason why I try to educate people on the matter. Is the reason why when you and I are in disagreement, I want to explain it to you in all sincerity. I do not discount the fact that
so what Hasan is doing here is also one of the reasons why I don't like talking to people who I'm on good terms with when we have like some kind of severe disagreement. And that if you have a strong disagreement like this and there's an audience of thousands and thousands of people watching, it's almost impossible to avoid being condescension. Like it's very, very difficult. I think there are things Hasan could do to maybe mitigate that a little bit and come across less of an asshole. But at the same time, like, what's the greater crime, right? Enabling Zionist propaganda and sort of being obtuse about it, or being kind of condescending. It's not good. It's not good. Love this. I had a nice vacation. We're getting back into real politics with people being unhappy. This is the meaning of politics. Politics is about people suffering. And the goal is to make it so the bad people suffer for the right reasons rather than good people suffering for the wrong reasons. And that's all politics, actually. That's the whole point.
Jewish people might hear this. Otherwise, good faith and even, I guess, anti-Zionist or maybe critical, Jewish people who are critical of Israel, let's say, might hear this and think, oh, this seems anti-Semitic to me because I've been told it's anti-Semitic. But I think making a concession on this and saying, you know what, you're right. Some people are afraid of this slogan, so that must mean it's anti-Semitic is incorrect when it's not reflective of its history.
Understand why a large amount of Jews think that slogan is offensive to them.
I know, but just like with the one-state
That's
solution
it.
conversation, that
like
we were
I'm just
having,
asking. I'm just trying to like connect a fucking bridge at all between
I do understand it.
You can use that phrase. I'm not even disagreeing. But like if we're trying to actually like make bridges and fucking understand each other, you not being able to even concede why Jews around the world could interpret that way seems, like it's not
How will he
productive at all.
respond?
Like you don't want to fucking see it from anyone's perspective.
But I do understand it, which is why I try to work against this counter narrative, this counterfactual. That's what I'm saying. I try to use the privilege that I have, the platform that I have, to deliver a voice for a group of people that are never that are never really heard at all.
I think peace and progress happens when we connect and have empathy for each other. That's it. I'm explaining to you why Jews around the world might find that offensive, and and that's it. I think that it would be good to try to understand that. But
the question I have is this.
But I don't care to keep talking about it because we just keep talking in circles.
Okay,
Maybe.
well, here I'll tackle it from a different angle.
All right, I gotta go soon anyway. My throat is fucking killing me.
They continue
well,
for a little while more.
I'm sorry that we couldn't make peace on this one issue. And
I
hope that
it's just I just find it really fucked up how people are going to interpret this now, and I think based on some of your analysis, as me like comparing fucking Palestinian activists to like Jewish Nazis or something, and like I'm not even fucking saying don't use the phrase. I'm simply trying to explain the perspective. And like if you don't want to hear the perspective, if you don't want to empathize at all with people that find it offensive, then conversing is kind of pointless.
I don't
like I feel like I'm just explaining it, man. And I'm not a fucking radical Jew. I'm not even a religious Jew.
No,
I have no stake in the game. And this is coming from
I know.
Intelligent donkey, I understand the temptation to call Ethan a crybaby here, but I don't think he's being one. I think that like a crybaby, in my mind at least, requires some degree of like malicious weaponization of your feelings. But I think that Ethan is being completely and fully sincere. Maybe I'm completely wrong here, but I interpret his behavior as being like, yeah, very sincere. Like none of it is, maybe you would feel he's being like incidentally or unintentionally crybullyish, but I don't know if I'd even say that. I just think that he's kind of emotional in the issue, I think.
All right.
There's a bit of a pause here. You got to skip a bit. What is the pause? Why is there a
I don't know why I
pause?
get so fucking emotional lately.
You all right? We don't have to continue if you don't want to and you don't feel like it.
Anyway,
I think this is the reason why I originally wanted to potentially feature Jewish voices in this conversation, because I feel like that would be. I feel as though that would be more productive. Even Israeli voices, as a matter of fact, and we can still do that at a later date if you'd like.
I just, I'm not like a fucking I'm not a sensitive Jew. I never scream anti-Semitism about anything.
No, I
So
know.
like you can't. I don't even think it's fair to characterize like. I'm just telling you how people see it. I mean, that's all
Ethan,
I'm doing.
I know. I never
You
said that.
disagree. Clearly, that's it, and that's fine.
I don't, Ethan. I don't. I've never said any of those things against you, and I don't believe that. Okay, I'm not saying that at all.
Ethan is an Israeli voice. His wife is Israeli, and Ethan lived there for years. I don't really. I don't know what you're trying to imply. Like, I disagree with the framing here. I don't. It is fully possible that Ethan's perspective is informed by those experiences. I mean, that's kind of how all life works, really. But I don't know. He's not exactly like an IDF propagandist, you know. I mean, again, there's stuff you can disagree with him on, but he's not like even remotely in that ballpark. And I know there are people in Hasan's community who will pretend that Ethan is like personally fucking executing Palestinian children or whatever. They do that with his wife, where they're like, "Oh yeah, well she was in the IDF, so you know," and then they do like the whole bit.
I'm simply trying to describe the position of Palestinians in this matter, on this front, and
You've
and
done
not
that,
just
and I understand,
Palestinians,
bro.
but
I
anti-Zionists as a whole.
understand. I understand. I've listened to you. I agree. That's it.
Okay. As far as shit, as far as being conciliatory on this front goes, I think that's the reason why it'd be better served to have this conversation not with myself, but with an anti-Zionist Jewish person.
Why does it matter if they're Jewish?
Because I'm not Jewish.
Wait, Ethan, hold on. Wait. That was your bit.
Jewish, and you've said in this conversation that, like, how can you tell me how to feel about the situation?
Yeah, but how is one person of representative of Jews at large?
I think that they'll be they can talk about it from a more united perspective, and give you more give you additional feedback and additional information.
Here, I'm just
maybe
gonna.
I'm
This
not.
person said, "Okay, we don't give a fuck if they interpret it like that because they're fucking brain dead genocidal freaks." It's like understanding a fucking Nazi's perspective that emancipation for minorities is a threat to their existence. Get the fuck out of here.
Yes,
So-
because this is, and for the record, that is the perspective of someone who is not speaking about Jewish people. He's talking about Zionists. This is the difference. And
Bro.
the number of Christian
way, that's-
Zionists far outnumber the number of Jewish Zionists as a whole.
How are the by the way, how do you honestly expect the mods to keep the discourse like in any way like civil? That was a comment left by your mod.
Ooh.
Which mod said that?
Ooh.
I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, why'd you bring it up?
No,
It-
I'm not
it does
trying to
matter.
snitch. Okay.
But
It was-
ultimately, you have to understand that the reason why people feel this way is because this is not like this community. These very same moderators, this entire moderation team has been tackling anti-Semitism for 4 or 5 years at this point. Like
Rogan says
they're not
Ethan is
anti-Semitic.
so-
They're not saying this
Rogan,
because they're
another
like,
mod says Ethan is so bad faith. What have I been bad faith about? Like I genuinely don't understand.
Okay, Ethan is making a classic mistake here, which is You shouldn't read the goddamn chat. It like if you're having a conversation with a streamer and you read the chat and you even remotely disagree with anything the streamer says, like obviously there are going to be like Hasan's chat does have some serious issues, but like man, any chat is going to look bad when read under the microscope there. I think that reading mods is fine. Yeah, but if you're reading stuff like Ethan was so bad faith, you know, I mean you're kind of casting a, you know, wide, it's like a big large spread of potential issues there.
Understand that.
The way that
What-
people perceive your do you think people across the board are geared towards hating you here in this community, in my community in general? Do you think that I don't yell at them regularly and try to tell them not to have these kinds of perspectives? The reason why people feel the way that they do is because after a certain point,
What have I said that's bad faith?
I think you want me to be totally honest.
Yeah.
No kitty gloves. Okay.
No,
Fuck you, bro.
No.
That insinuation is so stupid, man.
No. Please don't get mad at me. I'm gonna
Are
be.
you
I'm
my
gonna be
fucking
100.
moron? You just talk down to me the whole time.
No, absolutely not. I think you're a very smart person, but you do get a little emotional on this
kitty
issue.
gloves that's on. Tell me.
Okay, I think that what you said about from the river to the sea being akin to a Nazi slogan, or the fact that like it's a Confederate flag, those comparisons, because I know you personally and because I know you're an empathetic person, because I don't think you're a bad faith person at all, but anyone else that says something like that, it's going to come across, especially from the people that don't know who you are and what you represent, it's going to come across like you are making a bad faith argument that Ben Shapiro would make or any number of other conservatives would make in this circumstance. Of course people feel this way because they don't see your reconciliation process. They don't see that like you go back on information and you internalize it and you think about it and you come out with an honest perspective. They only see clips of you. They will see clips of you making that comparison, and
how is that bad faith? You're saying people take it out of context. That's not the same thing as being bad faith.
Well, I don't think it's being taken out of context because you're saying this in defense of bastardizing the perspective of Palestinians or minimizing the voice of Palestinians, Muslims, and anti-Zionist Jews, and the rest of the anti-Zionist movement. By trying to say, no, this is what...
Man, this is actually the most divided I've seen chat in a really long time. It's literally like a 50-50 split here of like people's sensibilities and where people are leaning. It's been a while since I've seen chat so divided. It's kind of crazy. I give them a bit more.
What it actually means. This is how it's being perceived by the other side. What it actually is perceived by the other side, the broader Zionist movement as a whole, does not change the reality of what this message means. It simply is used as another reason to silence any kind of emancipatory slogan and any kind of opposition. People feel like they can't say anything. People feel like they can't. People can't push for a ceasefire. The government's not listening to them. People can't even say free Palestine from the river to the sea because like then this is technically considered anti-Semitic. Like what should happen? Is there a boundary and a guideline that maybe like the ADL could put forward that people can write?
I am not advocating for any speech I'm just giving you my perspective. I'm not saying don't say any of that shit. I'm just telling you how Jewish people around the world interpret that phrase.
Why is Hasan letting his chat casually call Ethan a racist Zionist when he's not one? Bro, streamers are responsible for their chats, but let's not be stupid about this, okay? He's having a conversation with a friend. It's highly heated and emotional. What is he supposed to do? Like, oh, there's 40,000 people watching. Let me take the time to yell at, like, dipshit, retard, low IQ, 4796283. Like, come on. Like, what? This is why I don't like it when you start doing the whole chat thing. Like, look at chat. Because, like, holy shit, man, if you go looking for shit in chat, like, that is where shit lives. You guys suck. No. It's, yeah. Like, it's... You can't just do that. Like, streamers are responsible for their mods' word. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it's time to start, like, arguing with them over it. Like, I am having a heated conversation with my friend, and I have noticed that one of my mods has made a statement that I think is not entirely true, and there is more context to it. Let me engage in battle. Haha. Like it will never be that simple. It's why I hate it when, like, if you want to have a conversation about like a streamer's chat saying like some like abhorrent shit or whatever, but saying that Ethan Klein is a Zionist is not quote unquote abhorrent shit. I don't agree with it. But like that's not abhorrent shit. That's like just a disagreeable opinion. Like, if they were saying anti-Semitic shit to Ethan, I think that would be a legitimate ground to call them on. You know what I mean? Like, that would be something like, dude, look at your chat. They're saying they're calling me like the, you know, the K slur or whatever. I think that would be like a very reasonable ground.
That's it.
I think if
That's
you were
it.
to ask, anti-Zionist Jews how they interpret the slogan
I'm
versus
talking
Zionist,
about.
versus Zionist Jews, the difference would be stark.
But you're saying because of this group doesn't find it offensive that the other. I'm not saying they're right. You're
Because
saying
it's an
this group of
anti-Zionist
people
slogan,
finds
that's
it
why.
offensive, therefore they're wrong. I mean, I'm just telling you how they feel. I mean, it's just feelings. Bro.
Because it is an anti-Zionist slogan. That's why I think like listening to anti-Zionists in
At
this
a
front
certain
was more
point.
important.
And again, this is the way people hear it. At a certain point,
Also, what you're saying,
genociding all the Jews there does become anti-Semitic. And I'm not saying that's what anybody there wants to do.
of course, genociding all the Jews is anti-Semitic. That's insane.
That's how people perceive it, especially people in Israel.
No, but people also perceive Free Palestine to be the same. You yourself
I
admitted
don't.
that people in. Okay, you don't. But
I don't think it's the same. People don't
you
perceive it.
literally
Ethan is definitely wrong on this one. There are absolutely people who will argue that Free Palestine is like that, like for sure. That people will say like Free Palestine's anti-Semitic because like it's not even Palestine, it's Israel, and so on and so forth. Like that is true. Ethan has failed to like meaningfully describe what separates this particular sort of negative association in his mind from other ones he would argue are bad faith.
said a one-state solution is untenable, regardless of the morality of it, because people in Israel consider that to be akin to a possible genocide. You openly stated that paranoia is not a justifiable one, and yet people still feel it in their hearts. You cannot set the boundaries on an emancipatory movement by the unreasonable fears that people have about that slogan, because or any slogan whatsoever, because ultimately it turns into, unless it's like directly violent and it's an incitement of violence, in which case, of course, unacceptable. Because at a certain point, this becomes an optics conversation that is used as a cudgel to like just fucking forcibly squash any kind of opposition. And that's already happening. In America, it's not happening. We still have some semblance of free speech. But in Europe, in different parts of the world, people are literally fucking getting apprehended. They're getting detained for saying from the river to the sea. So in my opinion, having this back and forth in good faith and having a conversation about it is fine. But that doesn't even change the reality or even break through the dam of the sea of people that are demanding a ceasefire, that want to stop.
Vaush, you're missing Ethan's point. He's trying to explain how a group of people feel, and Hasan's immediate reaction is to explain why they're wrong to feel that way, rather than understanding why they came to that conclusion. Despite, I don't really think that's Hasan's responsibility. I think it's pretty tasteless for there to be like an ongoing genocide and the centering of the conversation being around like how the people doing the genociding, I'm referring, of course, to Israelis and Zionists, not to Jews. There are plenty of non-Zionist Jews. Feel, you know? Like, I think it's pretty obvious that, like, Hasan has said, okay, so they feel that way, but they're wrong to. But, like, that's fine. Like, I think that should be the end of it, right? Like, how much time has to be dedicated to being like, okay, you know, so they're wrong.
The occupation, that want to end the apartheid that has currently in this iteration, in this last iteration, in the siege, has killed almost 11,000 people with 4,000 children.
Bro, Don't
And I
bring that
know
up
you,
like, as
and
some
I know you
fucking
don't think.
talking point against me. Because
No, I
again, it
know you don't agree
insinuates I
with
don't
that.
give a
I
fuck
know you
about
don't
that.
agree with that. I know you don't agree with that. I know. I'm not saying you do at all. I know you don't agree with that.
It makes Ethan look pretty bad here that like an acknowledgement of the severity of scale is being treated like where he's like, yo, don't do that rhetorical tactic to me. I mean, to an extent it is rhetorical. Like everything is rhetorical tactic, but I think that it comes across kind of tasteless for like, hey, don't bring that up, you know?
And that's precisely
All
why
right,
I'm saying just
listen.
listen to the Palestinians in this front
Okay, I'm listening to the Palestinians
and anti-Zionist Jews.
and anti-Zionist Jews.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to fight. I think this is like, I mean, it sucks, and I'm sorry that I made you feel a certain way. I'm sorry that my community made you feel a certain way. No, it's fucked up. I don't want you to. I think you're a good person. Just understand that people don't know the empathy that you have, and they simply see, similar talking points that they've heard from others that don't demonstrate that same empathy that you do when you're delivering their perspective here. That makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to have a conversation about it. I'm just trying to be honest and open and like,
I agree. I respect it, which is why I wanted to have this conversation to begin with. I hope you don't think that I'm like, harboring resentment or trying to get my fucking community to hate you. I'm working in the exact opposite direction.
well, I don't think your mods have a very vested interest in aligning their goals with yours.
Good point.
I'll talk to them about it as well. But ultimately, there's a reason, and that is because they've heard this sentiment expressed by others, and they don't know you.
Here's another mod. C-Max says, you're just showing you're a Zionist, Ethan. There's another one saying, shrug dog, I don't care about your feelings. Which is fair. Yeah, I'm not taking it back, says Fish. Frogan said, I forget what she said, that I'm a Zionist or something like that.
The talking
literally
points
just
that
trying
you've
to explain
demonstrated,
why
the
people
talking
feel that
points that
way.
you've demonstrated come across like you are in defense of Israel, and they are identical to the talking points that those who support Israel put
When did I
forward.
defend Israel?
But I know you're not. I know.
When? You said it can be when?
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I know you're not. I know you personally. I know what you represent. I know the values that you represent. I know that you're empathetic. The talking points that you bring forward, however, are identical to the same talking points that I literally spent the entire day dissecting. That's the difference. That's why people see that and they automatically ascribe bad faith, bad faith to what you're saying.
Like what though? What's a talking point that you'd hear Ben Shapiro say?
Where do I begin? I think that the from the river to the sea conversation, every single thing that you've brought up, I've heard from. I mean, if I pulled up a Ben Shapiro video right now, he'd probably say identical things.
Right. And on that one, I'm just saying, as a member of the Jewish community at large, and myself being a moderate, fucking secular, non-religious, unsensitive to a not like desensitized to anti-Semitism for being on the internet.
He's clearly at least a little bit sensitive to something. I gotta say, I am kind of surprised by how sensitive Ethan has been in this. Like, he has really been, I guess, drained by the conversations that he's been having. Like, it's not as though he's a stranger to antagonism. I mean, dude's been doing this for a lot longer than I have, and he's dealt with plenty of conflicting opinions. Just really, very clearly. His dog just passed away. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, just a lot of compounding stress, I imagine.
Internet so long. Like, I'm just giving you the perspective. You disagree with it, and that's fine. But you can't argue about how people feel. It's an emotional.
I know.
It's an emotional thing.
I know.
That's what it is.
And I'm not even trying to argue about how people feel. I'm saying I'm not trying to argue about how people feel. I'm trying to explain what the historical what the historical background of that sentiment is and how it's being
But
oftentimes
what else
cynically.
other than that? What else other than that?
It's mostly
I,
that.
I
It's
know
that-
Ben Shapiro says that. Listen, I'm just telling you the perspective. What else did I say that would
I think I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of your your takes. Like I
today,
genuinely
you-
don't know.
you said
Today,
that the
today
stuff
is
I
just
was
the
saying-
river to the sea thing, for
Okay.
sure. That's it.
You made it sound
beyond
like
that,
today,
beyond
and
that,
Don't you think Ethan is reasonable for being weirded out by, quote, from the river to the sea, end quote, because of how often it's used by anti-science? The problem is Ethan hasn't advanced the conversation at all. Okay, yeah, acknowledge, sure. But he hasn't, like, moved beyond that point. And engaged with most of what Hasan's saying, because in terms of, like, material harm, overstatement of the harm of from the river to the sea is a greater threat than people just saying from the river to the sea. Like, Palestinians are not the ones committing the genocide right now. The I don't think he's doing it deliberately, but the performative fragility of Zionists has been one of their most effective weapons when it comes to getting away with constant human rights violations. So, like, you can say you understand where he's coming from, and I do, because there are fucking anti-Semites who use that shit, but, like, the like hemming and hawing and overstatement of that harm is the, like, number one thing that gets used to protect Israel and its crimes. So it's something you have to be careful of. And could Hasan have done a better job here? Of course, he's not me. But I think that for the most part, he's made it clear on what he wants to talk about, which is material harm. And it seems like Ethan just keeps saying over and over, like, well, there are people who feel this way. And, like, okay, but how much does that mean, really? Not that much, I don't think. I don't think that in and of itself is that meaningful.
I think, like,
conversation, I was echoing all kinds of talking points that suggest that I'm defending Israel.
wait,
And I don't remember
I
doing
didn't say
that.
that. I'm talking specifically about river to the sea thing. But as far as like a two-state solution goes, I think you're or a one-state solution goes, like, even having that conversation alone implies that you're not a Zionist. So I don't know why.
Dude, I literally
Ethan just wanted Hasan to say, okay, I understand people feel that way. He did. Hasan has said, okay, but they're wrong, which is an acknowledgement that people feel that way. He's saying there are people who feel that way and they're wrong, which is fun. Like, he is engaged with that. He has acknowledged that. He has met Ethan where Ethan has gone, but the opposite has not happened, is the thing. Of course, there are ways in which Hasan could have done better. The main thing, though, is that it's not really, like, my generally what I try to focus on is, like, oh, well, logically, what logically could have done better? But the issue here wasn't a logical error. The issue here is, like, a rhetorical one. Hasan could be doing a lot better to engage with where Ethan clearly is, which is an emotional place, you know? Like, it sounds condescending or whatever, but it's true. You know, he should engage with what Ethan is saying in a way that better addresses his emotional state. And I think that might have produced a better outcome. So in terms of, like, pure what outcome are we going for bullshit here, then yeah, there's that, I guess. Yeah. It's rough, huh?
conceded to you that the one state might make more
I know,
sense.
Ethan. I know.
what the
I'm
fuck, man?
telling you that I don't feel that way anyway. I'm not coming from it from that perspective at all. I'm also eating now. I'm just letting you know. But
Yeah, I can see. It's fine. All right, I do have to go. I mean, I don't know I don't know if this was productive or anything really at all. My sense of this is that I'm going to probably deeply regret having this conversation, but that's what it is.
Ethan, I love you. I wanted to talk to you beforehand, so we can just, like, have a more productive outline for a conversation like this. I'm not.
I mean,
I'm
this
not
is what I
trying to,
wanted
like,
to talk about.
What?
No, this is what I wanted to talk about. It's
No,
fine.
I know. I just look, as a final statement on this for everyone that's watching. Ethan is not a bad person. He's not a Zionist. He is delivering the perspective of a person that has lived in Israel. Yelling at Ethan is not going to be productive in this situation or appropriate in this situation. And
don't you
more,
think it's like if you're trying to reconcile between two different groups of people, don't you even if one group is wrong, let's say, do you think it's at least even a little important to try to understand their perspective?
100%. No,
Okay.
I do.
So
I
that's
talk
it.
about
And
the
that's all
importance
I
of
really
building a
fucking
broad.
am
I talk about the
doing.
importance of building a broad movement all the time. And in order to engage in coalition building, you have to be conciliatory, you have to be understanding, you have to be empathetic, lead by empathy.
Like
The-
if you want to call me
I wonder, like, if I was in this situation, man, I don't know. Again, like, fucking top 10 on lists of conversations I personally do not want to have, you know, or, like, conceptually would not enjoy having, I guess, like, even a little bit. I guess the problem is because people have emailed me, like, a lot of people have emailed me, basically saying, like, hey, my parents are Zionists. They are not bad people. They do not think that Palestinians are subhuman. They have just drank a lot of the Kool-Aid when it comes to performative hyperfragility and the idea that Israel's defense is the only way to protect Jewish people and such, you know? Like, what can I do? What can I say to them? What talking points, what evidence, what data could I bring up? And the honest to God answer, and this is queer fucking gay shit to say, but I do believe it, is that this is like one of the clearest examples of generational trauma imaginable. This is generational trauma that is being hyper weaponized by a cabal of fucking fascists who are taking like very real generational trauma and using it to advance like fascist state interests. And that's it. Like, it really is that simple. Like the governance of Israel is essentially just like fascist secular governance. Like, Israel is not a Jewish state in any meaningful way. It doesn't represent Judaism or Jewish people or lead itself in line with Jewish values, much like, I don't know, fucking Saudi Arabia, where like Saudi Arabia is ostensibly a you know, like an Islamic like cultural center, Mecca, blah blah, but in reality the House of Saud is essentially like a secular theocratic fascist organization that uses its ostensible religious ties as a way of directing the population and bringing in tourist bucks, which, hey, Israel does too. So like, how do you argue against generational trauma? And like, oh, yeah, I don't fucking know. that sounds kind of tough, dog. That sounds difficult. I'm sure it's not impossible, but you know, that's a tough sell, is all I'm saying. I don't know. Like, where you even go with that?
Israel defending. I'm like the most milk toast fucking pro-Israel defender you can possibly find. So like, you gotta learn. You people need to learn to build a fucking bridge somewhere.
I'm not saying that. I hope you understand. I know.
Yeah, you're not saying it, but I do think that a large part of your community thinks that. It's clearly reflected by all the shit that the mods continue to say. And so
I think it stems from. I
just got a fucking Air Force ad.
Yeah, I just ran an ad.
Right.
I forgot to run it at the top of the hour.
All right, listen. Let me just clarify. Israel's wrong. The settlements should be removed. Netanyahu's a war criminal. I fucking hate him and his whole cabinet. They're genocidal, absolute psychopaths. Fucking despise them. I think the Palestinian people, I think the blockade needs to be lifted. I think that Israel is indiscriminately bombing Gaza. I think that this indiscriminate bombing of Gaza is fucking horrific and horrible and absolutely destroys Israel's position. I don't know what more I can do to try to empathize as someone who's an Israeli. I don't know. And so those are my positions. If I try to explain a perspective of a Jewish or Israeli person, I'm not endorsing it. I'm not defending it. I'm only saying it because I think it's important for people to understand the perspectives of those on the other side of them, so that you can connect with them better. That's it. That's my goal. And
what could the pro-Palestinian side do better? I think that's a good question to ask you.
I think that is a good question.
As far as its own advocacy, I don't mean this like cynically.
I'll answer it. I don't. Again, I hate to speak so broadly about the whole movement, but in general, I've seen, and what I'm seeing now is just like a really vitriol, like there's zero empathy or tolerance or desire to hear the perspective that I'm doing, and so much so there's not only
I wish I could be more sympathetic here, but I don't know what perspective he's offering here is the thing. Like I understand that he's saying there are people who think this phrase is threatening, but he never really got into level 2 of that conversation, so I don't know. I don't really know what there is to take away from that, right? Because if we're to guide our behavior off of the idea that lots and lots of Jewish people or Zionists or whoever else feel threatened by X slogan, then that's just going to end up being all pro-Palestinian slogans, right? They do the same kind of fear-mongering with Free Palestine or ceasefire now or whatever else. So obviously that can't be the marker, you know? Like how would you work past that?
only a lack of empathy. There's a downright an outright hatred for it. I mean, I feel like a lot of people can't differentiate between like real Zionist propagandist psychotic fucking freaks and then someone like me who's a, you know, secular, modern, fucking unreligious and concerned Jewish person, Israeli, that's concerned about what's happening to the Palestinian people. And so I think that people, again, I can't speak to the whole movement at broad, but I can talk about what I'm seeing in your community with your mods and such, is that there's such a quick, it's so quick to condemnation. It's so quick to interpret the worst faith possible. There's no charitability. And I understand because tensions are high. People are rightfully upset about what's happening. I mean, that's to put it mildly, right? As you said, I mean, 10,000 people died, 6,000 of them are kids, or maybe even more, 8,000, I don't know. But there has to be, if there's not even tolerance for someone with my perspective, then I genuinely don't think that there's ever going to be a chance of anyone reconciling this in a meaningful way. I just think it's counterproductive to look at me like the fucking villain and to call me a Zionist and to interpret what I'm saying as someone who's no different than, you know, your run-of-the-mill militant fucking fundamentalist settler or fanatic in Israel.
I agree.
Okay.
I think that I think that people are too quick to jump to conclusions, especially because of the prevalence of certain talking points that they hear, that they immediately go, oh, it seems like he's defending Israel, in the same way that people look at me and say, oh,
it is worth pointing out at the moment that at no point has Ethan defended Israel. That just has not been a feature of this conversation or any other that I've heard. You know, it is, I do feel it's worth noting that.
You don't care. You love Hamas. Like, you must love Hamas. It's very obvious that you love Hamas over and over again. Despite the endless condemnations that I deliver.
I feel that
and talk about the brutality of it. It's just people are very black and white on the internet, and they want to put you in a neatly defined box that says you believe this, and I think that you believe this, and you're sneakily and cynically and talking against this other position. I will not listen to what you have to say. I simply am going to perceive you a certain way and go along with it. I obviously disagree with that.
Ethan is literally just allowing himself to be guided by his feelings, and that's a very normal reaction, especially considering how Hasan's community has treated him. I am very sympathetic to it, possibly because I'm also the subject of a pretty substantial amount of internet hatred. At the same time, I always have to be considerate of what I consider to be like the main point here, which is the genocide. You do have to keep your feelings very carefully in check. You know, like you have to be very careful about how what you say comes across and the effects that it has. That's like the top priority here. Not to say that anti-Semitism isn't a real threat or consideration, because it certainly is. Just, man, you know, I like it's a bad time to have conversations like these.
That's why I try to break through that on a regular basis. I try to instill charitability in my audience as well when talking to people, and that's
I do think, though,
It's
in
never a good
general,
time.
like
Yeah, I guess.
I agree with what you're saying about yourself. I know that all that about you, but I do think, like, on the whole, that your community is extremely hostile towards me, or maybe not. I don't know. I don't know what's the
that's not
percentage. I
true.
mean, how
I
could
think there's
how
plenty.
could I
No,
tell?
there's plenty of.
But I
fans
feel
of
like
yours in this,
they're overly.
there are plenty of fans of yours in this community. I think that
Yeah,
they're.
yeah. No, I don't know what's the percentage, but like, it's very. I don't know. I feel like very unwelcomed, and maybe it's going back to the fucking Discord that I know you don't log in there, but like, it's just
No, not only do I don't regularly go in there, I've literally moderated it, but also on top of that, have told the mods to like, I've told the mods to deal with it. The thing is, now that you've said like, I don't know, I just like. Everyone is gonna going forward from this point on. There are going to be people that like regularly will take clips that you've had on this broadcast and use it against you and say that you have a certain position and continue fucking bullying you, which I disavow and I disagree with, and I think it's fucking bullshit. And I've said it time and time again. You know this. And then also on the other side, people are going to be eating good and being like, see, Hasan and his community fucking despise Ethan. Like when you said that about Discord, my Discord and my community, everybody went along with it. The worst pieces of shit that you and I both fucking despise, like all those fucking little weirdos on Twitter, like the likes of Ian Miles Wrong and shit, you know, quartering. Like they all fucking went along with it. And we're like, Hasan's community are fucking anti-Semitic and they all fucking hate Ethan and they're all woke and they hate Ethan. And I hate that shit. I despise it. Like whenever you and I have a back and forth like this, they eat so good and I despise it.
I wonder if one day I'm ever going to let go of the like just incredible lingering antagonism that I'm holding towards Hasan with regards to his treatment of the Ukrainian people and his framing of that conflict. Like I haven't even seen his community in years. Like I'm certainly not in his Discord. They banned me years ago. But like fuck, man. I'm liable to just accept basically anything negative said about his community because I've seen so much of it. It is almost unforgivable. I don't know, like there are some lines you just can't cross, you know? I think you should. Charitability is important. True, but charitability is just about like hearing people out, right? It's a, you know, but I did hear him out on these subjects and what he had to say was really fucking bad. You know, it's yeah. It's not good. It's not good. Not even a little bit. I think you're good. Thanks. I think I'm good too. Hasan called Dylan a war tourist pervert for letting people hear Ukrainian voices. Yeah, I saw that too. Dylan Burns did a bit where it was like, let's have Ukrainians react to statements Westerners have made about the conflict. Or was it just Hasan? I don't know if it was just Hasan or if it was like Westerners broadly. But it was just Hasan. I can understand how that comes across as a bit clickbaity, I guess, but not invalid. Hasan is a huge, you know, he's a huge like voice. Doesn't come across very well. Hasan at a different time called Dylan Burns a ruthless neolib. Ah, well. Whomst amongst us. Thanks, Mythaldo. I only had to rebuild it twice.
Like, they're probably going to use this as well. Constantly fucking driving a rift and constantly moving away from, like, having a charitable conversation.
I know.
Having
I
it
do
important
feel
and
that,
productive
though.
back and forth.
I do feel, and people say, oh, you're wrong. Well, that's why. I do feel like if I was to take a snippet from our Discord, it would be so positive and so nice and so supportive of you, even when they disagree. Whereas if I look at your community's responses, some of the stuff I'm saying, they're super fucking, and maybe they're justified because of what's happening in Gaza right now, but it's just so negative and so hateful and so nasty and so uncharitable and so mean-spirited that that it just makes me feel unwelcome, and it makes me feel like sometimes that what we're doing here is kind of pointless. But I admire everything that you do, and I support everything that you do, and
it's also
I think
it's also because it's a political community, which is fucking cancerous and awful in general. Especially like this morning, I talked about walking my dog. I was 10 minutes into the broadcast, and the first thing I saw in the fucking chat was, oh, so no more BDS against Starbucks, I guess? Because I said I got a puppuccino for my dog. I never said I went to Starbucks. I never said anything. For the past fucking for the past 4 weeks.
Yeah, I'll take it. I never do boycotts. They're so fucking stupid, dude. I've seen like 50 like waves of people on Twitter in my career every time. This is it. This is the line. Da da da. What happens? Nothing ever. Nothing ever. Because boycotts don't work ever. It's fine. I don't care. Like no. Yeah. But they just flatly don't work. They just don't work. Boycott, you mean the free promo? In this case, probably not, but you know. The people who boycott usually didn't go anyway. Yeah, you ever get the feeling a lot of the people who are doing the boycotts just didn't do the thing? Like, they're like, oh, yeah, I'm boycott. Yeah, here, guys, are you right? I'm boycotting McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever the fuck it is. You know what? I never went to Starbucks before. I don't. I'm in Seattle. There's a billion awesome local coffee shops that I go to when I want to. I don't go to fucking Starbucks. I'm boycotting. Woo! Hell yes. Vaush is jelly spine this issue. He doesn't want to do anything that would inconvenience his personal life. You're jelly spine, motherfucker. You know why? Because you're not whipping your cock and balls with a big fucking barbed whip every night. It does just as much to the world as boycotting Starbucks does. Why don't you do it? Why aren't you doing it? What, you fucking piece of shit? You stupid fucking piece of shit? You Zionist fuck? Not whipping your dick and balls with a spiky barbed... I don't know what you want from me. I don't need from Starbucks, you know? I like their lemon loaf, but I've given it up for the good people of the Gaza Strip. And also just, I have better bakeries that I could go to. And already do. I'm boycotting fentanyl dealers. You know, I'm boycotting barbed cock and ball whip sellers. You know, I'm done with those. You let the world feel the wrath of my economic deprivation. Dunkin' has a lemon loaf too. Dunkin' Donuts. I just see donuts at Dunkin' Donuts. What are you talking about? You high? Donuts at Dunkin' Donuts. What are you talking about?
Almost 5 weeks now, I have continuously talked about what is going on in Gaza. And yet there were still people who are mentally ill and fucking bad faith who were like, oh, I guess you went to Starbucks and purchased all the Starbucks you possibly could. And that must mean you hate the BDS movement. That must mean you hate Palestinians in general. So this shit happens to me all the fucking time too. It's part and parcel of like being, unfortunately, in the political realm, especially when it's like an environment that is ultimately very emotional, that people, people do the two awful worst things you could do. We're marrying parasocial attitudes that are already unhealthy with political perspectives that people get like incredibly polarized on and incredibly impassionate about. So obviously, no matter what happens, like if you look at this kind of stuff and it let the kind of stuff sway your opinion, it's going to destroy you mentally. It's just something that
I mean, listen,
sucks,
I've been
that
like,
I have
I've
to
been
deal
on the
with
internet
always.
so fucking long, dude. I'm impervious for the most part. I would thought into this shit, you know. But this stuff that's happening here really, you know,
Yeah, I know
took
what
a toll on
I
me.
know what it is. It's getting yelled at by those you perceive as your allies. Happens to me all the fucking time too. You recall this happened during the you bought a house saga.
You know that meme with like the wolf where you have the one baby wolf with the one arrow and then the big wolf with the many arrows, but the big wolf is being cool about it? I'm being so cool right now. I'm being so cool about the mistreatment from my ostensible allies.
When you and I had this conversation, okay?
Text me.
You
Can
and
you
I-
hear me?
What? I can hear you.
I
What's
just
going
got a
on?
text from you said, "Can you hear me?" That's weird. I guess
No,
it's
no,
old.
that's old. Also, don't show your phone on your camera.
Yeah.
Anyway, no.
Yeah,
Remember,
I'm like that
I-
picture
I
of
do-
Shadow
we
I
had
do
the
have to
conversation
go.
when I
do
bought a
have to go.
house. Last thing I want to say. Remember
Yeah.
remember when I bought a house and everybody fucking lost their minds, or when I bought a car and everybody lost their fucking minds? The people that were yelling at me in that situation were not right wingers. I mean, sure, there were right wingers that were yelling at me and taking advantage of the situation too. It was mostly fucking people with hammer and sickles in their fucking bios on Twitter. That didn't change my perspective, and it didn't change my opinion on the world, and it didn't change my analysis one bit. Because ultimately, you have to remember, like, a lot of that comes from a place of anger, resentment, frustration in their own personal lives. You just have to keep learning and keep going on this journey, be as charitable as you possibly can to others, and lead by empathy. There are going to be people who you perceive as allies who will yell at you, and it's going to hurt your fucking soul. And it has happened to me more than anyone on this planet, okay? It's coming from a place of powerlessness. It's also coming from a place of like access, where they think they have access to you, where they know you will hear what they have to say and you will respond to it, and they'll make them feel good.
What
that,
about
like,
when all those people saying that are your mods? I mean, that seems more personal.
it's the exact same principle behind that as well. It's the exact same principle of like people perceiving what you're saying without knowing your background, without knowing what you believe. Like my mods aren't like these are not people I'm seeing personally every single day, Ethan. They are fans all the same. They don't know you. They don't know the conversations.
Listen, I do have to go. What I'll say is this: I have always admired what you do, and I have always supported what you do, and I will continue to do that. And I think that you can. That's it. I don't know. And you can say from the river to the sea. You can say free Palestine.
No, okay.
Do all that shit. It's not. I don't think that it's inherently anti-Semitic to say those things. To be clear, I don't think that fucking Jewish people that.
I think this conversation was almost entirely a kind of unintentional shit test from Ethan Klein about Hasan's willingness to control his community and his willingness to sort of be charitable and such and such. This feels like it's, from the hour that we've listened to, essentially none of this conversation was actually about the conversation that was being had. I don't know. Keep in mind that I don't think that's like good of Ethan to do. I don't know if he's I don't think he's doing it deliberately. I think it's like an unintentional sort of psychological, yeah. It's fine, you know, not I don't mean to insinuate there's some kind of like intellectual failing for having human emotions. That's actually a cool thing, I think. But like yeah, it was just two like totally separate conversations.
Are anti-Zionist, are fucking Nazi sympathizers. Okay.
I don't think you. I
don't
think
think
you said,
that.
I don't think you believe that. I know. I'm saying.
I don't think that Confederate that Jews who are anti-Zionist are Confederate supporters. I am anti. I'm not a Zionist, so I'm not sure where that comes from. Oh, I know people are saying it, but in short, I support you. I've always respected what you do, and I will continue to do that. And That's it. Is Ethan
Please,
drunk? No, I'm
please.
just sick and tired.
Okay, before we go, please don't read shit online. People are gonna be fucking
This is
ruthless,
rough,
knowing
man.
full well that you read it and it pisses you off and it hurts your feelings. That's why people are doing it for the
Really,
most part. Anyone who thinks that like taking you down a notch or a peg is going to like somehow be productive or somehow win anything, and call you a Zionist and yell at you, is wrong. They're wrong. They're in the wrong. They're not thinking about this. They're just simply selfishly trying.
There are some people in chat who seem to be under the impression that Hasan is being cruel here, but I don't really think he is. I think that Ethan put too big of an emotional ask on this conversation, in my opinion. And I think that Hasan's definitely not handling it the best he could, but he is handling it. I mean, he's not completely ignoring the emotional subtext of the conversation. So that's good. Like, it could always be worse, I suppose. It's certainly messy. I am in no way, shape, or form am I denying this is messy bitch hour, you know? But all the same, how's it too big of an ask? Because there's a genocide going on, and a genocide is not a good time to have a proxy conversation on your feelings of, you know, friend management through the lens of talking about the optics of anti-genocidal slogans that may or may not have anti-Semitic. Like, come on, we know, don't we?
Trying to yell at you, just like people selfishly try to yell at me all the fucking time, because it's a mechanism of like releasing stress, especially in an incredibly stressful environment. We as we in the online arena as e-celebrities, shitty e-celebrities, are always going to be punching bags.
Would you give Ethan more credit if he framed this just as a conversation about Hasan's community? Yeah. Again, I'm not trying to accuse him of being like manipulative or anything. People do this all the time. This is just a big part of relationships in general, is learning to understand when a person isn't really talking about the thing they're talking about. And one of the biggest parts, I think, of growing up, especially if you're like an edgy dude bro boy like me, is learning to realize that people acting that way is not a deliberate psychological debate bro strategy they're doing against you specifically. It's not a tactic to weaponize, you know, they're just feeling emotional. And you also do it. You do it too, but you don't know when you're doing it, and neither do they. Which is the whole point, really. That's the problem.
Okay, so don't read any of that shit. Don't. Not good.
Yeah.
It's not reflective of anything other than people's own personal perspectives. I say this as not only your friend, but also as someone who's looking at it even from the outside, okay?
Listen,
Anyway.
I want to say to everyone watching in chat that I appreciate you guys' perspective. I love you guys, and thanks for watching. And I hope that, you know, anything I said doesn't come off.
That was how it. Okay. Well. Yeah. Well, that just happened. The heated emotional conversation is right behind me, isn't it?